And welcome.
I turned it down.
Oh.
Meant to turn it up.
As you can see, we did not even rehearse this. So,
Already having technical difficulties.
So Tom, why did you pick this song?
Because it's all aboard the crazy train, Mike, in this league. Because right now we have 7 teams with the same exact record. We still have an undefeated team, which is the first time in a long time we've had someone undefeated this long. And we still have a winless person, which is also a first time in a long time we've had someone be winless for this long. Billy was the most recent one, but only got to 5 losses. We have someone up to 0-6.
And not the lowest point score in the league.
Not at all. That's what makes it even crazier. The lowest point score is sitting almost in a playoff spot right now.
That's right. We have, out of 12 teams, only 2 teams have losing record in our league.
Wow. I didn't think about it that way. That's a good point, Mike.
So, with that, welcome to our famous... Let me start over. Welcome to our famous annual video, Contenders and Pretenders, as made by Tom and I. So if you heard this term before, it's because we both made it famous.
That's right.
Just like Funburs.
Funburs, where fun and numbers can live in peace and harmony.
If you add them together, you get magic.
Okay.
So speaking of magical, let's just go right to Contenders, Pretenders. We will start with the leading candidate in the East Division being, can you believe it, the Spencer, or was it the Spencer that was the lowest ranked train? Or Percy is Percy.
I don't know any of the trains.
We aren't doing the trains today,
so
but
that was all you.
Dennis. Yes, Dennis, Jabba the Hutt 1, Hutt 2, went from being the F-rated team by drafting, given by me, to the number 1 ranked team in the East at 4-2. So he's not the overall number 1 team, but he does have, I think, he does have the highest points fielded this year. So his team is not to be messed with. I would label this team a contender, but we all know how valuable my opinions are. So maybe he will end up missing the playoffs. But where his team has been really solid this year has been his running backs. So he had Dalvin Cook and Leonard Fournette, who I thought were questionable, and they've been tearing it up, just like Dalvin Cook tore up his knee. But Dennis found a sneaky replacement in getting Jerick McKinnon off of the waiver wire, even as a very high seed.
Good scoop.
And it's because no one knew who the starter was going to be. Was it going to be Latavius Murray or Jerick McKinnon? And now Jerick McKinnon is already ranked as the 15th highest scoring running back this year for playing 2 games.
Wow.
That's impressive. And to top it off, Dennis has the number 1 ranked defense with the Jaguars. Who saw that coming? And the number 3 ranked wide receiver in AJ Green, who's having a rejuvenating year. So good job drafting players that I thought were on the scrap heap. You turned scrap into gold. So keep it up. And I think we'll see you in the playoffs. Definite contender for a championship.
Definite contender. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Defense wins championships. And you're like, in fantasy? Yes,
Never.
In fantasy. Because Dennis's defense right now is averaging a crazy 14 points per game, which is as good as some people's like number 1 wide receivers, and maybe even some people starting quarterbacks.
Yes.
But he's getting that from a defense.
Yep, I'm surprised you read those averages between my spidery cracked screen, Tom. That's impressive.
Good find.
All right, Dennis, you're a contender. We're not going to focus on you anymore and make your head any bigger than it already is.
Shocking, though. At this point last season, I believe he was also in first place of his division. He's done it twice in a row. I think he's the real deal now.
Yep, he's cooking up some victories.
All right, moving to the number 1 in the West, number 1 in the league. Monday.
And number 1 in Leah's heart.
Oh, that's right. And they're getting married in just 2 days.
Congratulations.
That's right. Congratulations. Can't wait for it.
Hopefully it doesn't tank your fantasy season.
Yeah. You're 6-0 as an engaged person. Maybe you shouldn't get married. I don't know. All right. So, again, 6-0 Monday Night's Watch. And they are on a rampage right now. Just nobody can stop them. They haven't really had many bad weeks where they've slipped up. And when they have, they've fortunately had an opponent like myself who only scored like 60 points when I played him.
Mm-hmm.
But leading the way on this team, he got Antonio Brown in the first round, and that has mostly paid off. He's had a few bad games, but a lot of really good ones as well.
Still the number 1 ranked wide receiver.
Yep. So even with those bad games, he scores big when he's doing well. And then the biggest sleeper pick of the draft, and I think he used a second-round pick, so maybe not sleeper per se, but Kareem Hunt, who is also number 1 at his position. So he's got number 1 at the 2 skill positions. And
does have DeAndre Hopkins, who's his number 2
oh my goodness.
skill wide receiver.
He's got the top 2 wide receivers, the number 1 running back. I mean, his team is doing really well. Charles Clay's number 5 tight end. And he's injured right now, but he will hopefully come back. He's got Doug Martin coming into things. I'm not sure how he did last week, but his first weekend, he was scoring like 13 points.
14 points last week.
Okay. So he's been off to a hot start already. And then the only weak spot for this team is surprisingly at quarterback with Big Ben and Jared Goff, who are both capable of playing extremely well, but are both capable of playing extremely poorly. As we have seen, Ben's thrown 5 interceptions in a game. Jared Goff's had under 10 points, I think, a couple games now. So that's his weak spot, but when you have the number 1, number 2, number 1, a number 5 at all these different positions.
Who even needs a quarterback?
You could probably just bench him. In some weeks, you'd probably be better off without a quarterback because Ben almost went negative that 1 week.
I mean, we know what it's like to play without a quarterback.
Yeah. So at 6 wins, don't know why we're even talking about it. This guy's definitely a contender. He basically needs 1 more win, maybe not even 1 more win because we saw Kate make it the playoffs last year with 6 wins. So maybe, hey, you may be already a lock for a playoffs. Who knows?
Welcome to the playoffs.
Playoffs.
All right. Let's start with the number 2 team in the East. That would be this guy right here. I won't rate myself, so Tom's just going to have to rate me.
All right. Jumping right into it. Polymer Paladins. So, okay. We got a team that is hard to say whether or not they are a contender or pretender, mainly for the fact because we don't know where Ezekiel Elliott is going this season. As a matter of fact, I was already behind the times when I thought I was up with the times of him having his suspension upheld like 3 days ago, and apparently 3 hours ago it's back to being pulled back. So now Elliott's in for now, but maybe not by Sunday or the next week. I don't know.
It's a roller coaster ride with him.
So I'd say with Elliott, I'll just say, with or without Elliott, you at least have his sort of handcuff in McFadden.
Mm-hmm.
We'll say you're a contender. You've been scoring well. Winston will eventually come back from his injury. That'll hurt you. You might struggle this week without Winston because Brett Hundley, I don't know, had 4 points last week. It was a good defense. But I say...
You don't think he's going to tear it up?
No, probably not. Because, the Saints had 6 interceptions last week or something. Their defense is turning it around.
Brett Hundley is light years better.
Is he now? So if we go back, how do I do that here?
Boop. Uh-oh.
It's loading.
No, wait.
Technical difficulties, suspense.
Let's go there.
Standings. Polymer Paladins, they are the number 4 scoring team in the league. So a solid scoring team with essentially 2 first-round picks since he risked it with Elliott, and thus far it's paying off. Mm-hmm. And he also has Todd Gurley, who's been going wild this season.
Yep.
I don't see what would derail them other than maybe a suspension.
What is left to say? Definite contender. This makes up for last year when I finished as the last place team in fantasy football. Embarrassing.
We'll see what happens this year.
I think I was about in this position last year and then lost like 4 games in a row. So there's always room to fall back to reality. Hey!
Well, there goes gravity.
And just like that, the number 2 team in the West, Tom would typically do his division, but he happens to be also the number 2 team in his division. Now, he's at 4-2, so a little bit better. But he is riding a 2-game losing streak because he was undefeated, lost last week to the undefeated Monday Night's Watch, and then just happened to lose to me in this most recent week. Now, Tom and I came up with this ridiculous bet that maybe we should try to play a fantasy football matchup by having both our quarterbacks get shoulder injuries in about the first quarter.
Why not?
And it ended up in an epically low-scoring game. However, we did score some more points than people who fielded a whole roster's worth of players.
That is impressive. Bad.
Yes. So our final score was 61-53. Delaney Walker did not have the game that Tom was hoping for. And I watched the game only to watch Delaney Walker. Other than that, I wouldn't have watched Colts-Titans. Pretty miserable game. But I can tell you that it wasn't for lack of Mariota trying to get Delaney Walker the ball, because he was getting thrown the ball about every 3 plays.
I heard he had 8 targets, which was good for a whole 1 point.
Sometimes it just isn't meant to be. So, Tom, you have a total of 505 points scored. That would make you the 3rd highest scoring team in your division and the 6th highest scoring team. No, 7th highest scoring team. So you're in the bottom half of scoring.
7th?
Yep. Michael Sparing, Bobby Allen. 1, 2, 3. So 6. Sorry.
It's like
I thought I counted another one.
But me and Dad are tied.
So you have 4 wins. Conversely, Dad has 1. Interesting way to look at that. So anyway, what is making your team do well? You have no one in your lineup right now, so this is going to be interesting. Tyreek Hill has been pretty good. 7th overall ranked wide receiver, and I think you got a pretty good bargain on him when you got him. I love the Mike Evans draft pick. However, it's been an up and down year with him right now.
It's been up and down for both Hill and Evans. They are both in opposite weeks scoring over 10 points. And in the weeks they don't score 10 points, score 4 or less. But they're doing opposite every other week. So right now, Tyreek's going to go off. But Evans scored 15 last week, so he's going to ride the pine this week, along with the rest of my team.
There's probably a good way to make a sentence out of all the names on your team, because you have Walker up a hill to fetch a Miller Lite. Yeah.
And eat some corn on the cob with my 4 men.
Named White. I don't know. All right, anyway. So I hated Mike Gillislee as a draft pick of Tom's, and the first week he proved me wrong, very, very wrong. But Gillislee is starting to show his true colors, and Tom is probably regretting drafting him now. The rest of your team is kind of I don't know, it's blah, I'll be honest.
Well, it used to have Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, true. Aaron Rodgers breaking his collarbone not only hurt him, but it hurt your team.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think it might have proverbially broke your fantasy season.
Yes, I've come to accept the fact that I probably will not win any more games this season. So
I kind of rate you as a pretender.
Going to get to 4 wins this year. I'm going to have a 4-game win streak followed by a 9-game losing streak. But I'm accepting that, and I have come to peace with it. And I will just cheer for other people in my household, such as Kristen, and say...
This was how we got back. There's a close button on the top right corner that we were missing due to my crappy screen.
But if anyone would like to do any legitimate trades with me, not trying to take my number 1 wide receiver for
peanuts.
Yeah, Cam Newton and Mohamed Sanu.
We're not looking at you, Butcher Block Madness.
Yeah. I am open to trades of sorts.
Yep, you could say that your team kind of pulled a Gordon Hayward. Did you see that he...
I didn't hear. I heard he was injured, but I didn't hear what it was.
He grossly broke his ankle last night. So all his hopes and dreams and the Celtics' hopes and dreams were crushed in the first 10 minutes of the basketball season.
But I do have the number one kicker in the league.
Legatron.
Greg the Leg.
You can enjoy his leg while you miss the playoffs. Pretender. Okay, moving on. People that like to cut legs off. Lock, stock, and two bloody scalpels. Pete Allen, who has 544 points scored this season to make that the third highest point total in our division. I do really like his roster. Tom Brady, Le'Veon Bell, and Doug Baldwin are a potent combination this year, and I think that will continue. Mark Ingram had a hot game last week with Adrian Peterson finally being shipped out of New Orleans, which was a disastrous idea in the first place for them. And he has Travis Kelce, who might be a big jerk, but he's also a very big tight end who likes to score lots of points and get lots of penalties. But we don't take negative points for penalties in our league. So he can get penalized all he wants, Pete. Move the team back, and then he'll just get more yards. So that's a good strategy, actually. Find people who get penalties so you can get more yards at the end of the day.
It's interesting.
I really like Peter's team overall. Like I said, Le'Veon Bell is probably going to keep going now that he's kind of in football shape. Remember, he held out at the beginning of the year, so he had to kind of learn how to run the football again because apparently you forget that. Yeah, so I don't really have much to say. It looks like a good roster to me. I think he's going to make the playoffs.
I'd say anyone that has Tom Brady on their roster is a contender.
Yep.
Brady and Bell. It's a deadly combination.
And he pretty much only has to get lucky with one of his wide receivers, and he's in good shape. Good job, Pete. Even though you never can do anything besides like surgeries, you somehow managed to surgically put together a very good lineup. You're multi-talented.
And speaking of knives, we have Bobby's Butcher Block Madness, which has probably the best pair of quarterbacks in the league. Unfortunately for Bobby, we are not a two-quarterback league.
That's correct.
And yeah, Deshaun Watson is the number one quarterback right now. So he's got the number one quarterback.
And that's crazy.
Which is absolutely crazy for a player who I don't think anyone drafted. I think he did pick him up off of waivers. Wasn't even actually a starter at the beginning of the season.
Yep.
I mean, it only took a half, but still wasn't.
It's not like he really scored many points in that game. So he's become the number one quarterback without even playing one game.
Yeah. And I don't see it letting up because he just does it in so many ways. He can run in for touchdowns. He has a really good deep ball. He's been nailing some like 40-plus yard touchdown passes. Just an all-around solid offense. And with their defense falling apart, they're going to be in a lot of shootouts. So that just means more points. So that by itself, I mean, he is getting nearly 23 points a week from his quarterback, which means you don't need the rest of your team to play all that well to do well. And he does have solid players like Howard and Hyde at running back, wide receiver Jordy Nelson. And as long as he can keep staying healthy, which, hey, he's done it so far this year, surprisingly enough. Rob Gronkowski, I think he's only missed one game.
Yeah.
So
Nelson may be a problem moving forward. Just depends if Hundley can get him the ball.
Yeah. Now, I'd say the one issue that could keep this guy from being a real contender is he does have a historically fragile team. Howard has missed games last year. Hyde always misses games. Jordy Nelson has missed games with ACLs and I think concussions. Rob Gronkowski, I don't think has played a full season in years. Stephon Diggs is now missing games. And, Cam Newton's his backup, but if he ever had to rely on him, he is also prone to getting injured. So I would say that is the biggest hindrance I could see for this team. And early in the season, it's working out. But I could see this being one of those teams where suddenly all of his stars are injured. But I'll say he's a contender.
It's hard to say a pretender considering he scored 585 points. So he's the second highest point scorer in the league. I do think that Bobby's Butcher Block Madness is also a legitimate contender. But he may not be able to rely on Jordy Nelson anymore. Because, well, it'll just depend on if Brett Hundley can throw him the ball. But we'll find out this week. And I'm playing him against an undefeated Monday Night's Watch. So,
ooh, big match.
Talk about a big risk. See if it plays out. All right. To another 3-3 team in my division, the Cookie Monster, who has scored a whopping total. Conversely, we had 585 versus 433. Oof. It has been quite the season for the Cookie Monster. She goes 40 points, 100 points, 40 points, 100 points. You never know what you're going to get with this one. So Drew Brees has been kind of her Mr. Consistency on a team that has been incredibly inconsistent. The running backs right now are Latavius Murray and Aaron Jones. Probably two running backs that weren't really drafted very high. And then she has Ty Montgomery and Kyle Rudolph to continue her Vikings-Packers love. And, oh, man. It doesn't get any better on your bench.
I see why you're not scoring many points now.
Jeremy Maclin, he was good 5 years ago. Julius Thomas.
5 years ago.
Yeah. Basically, her two wide receivers, T.Y. Hilton and Michael Crabtree, they're known to put up some points, but right now they're both getting incredibly inconsistent quarterback play. I don't know what to say, Kate. I think this might be a year where you miss the playoffs because I think you've made it the past few seasons. So Dennis might actually be able to have bragging rights in your household this year. I'm going Pretender.
I'm sorry. I'm actually looking at your roster surprised you even have 3 wins. No offense. That covers it, right?
Yep. Okay. She can't be offended now because you said no offense.
That's how it works.
That absolves you from all anger.
So, moving on to yet another, because the list goes on and on and on. Another 3-3 team. Bills Buffalo 3, so another 3 even in there. Trail of Tears.
Trace.
There have been some tears and some cheers for this team.
What's in French? Toi.
You're the one that's married to the French lady. All right. So, Billy, what has he got? He has just a confusing team. I don't know. He's got a lot of inconsistent players. Devontae Adams has had some big games and some games where it's like, is he even playing? McCoy, the same. I think he's had a game where he had 2 points and followed it up with 20 points. He's got Carson Palmer and Mariota at quarterback who are just wildly inconsistent themselves.
Yeah.
LeGarrette Blount, who is up and down. Sometimes the Eagles use him, sometimes they don't. Deshaun Jackson, home run hitter. Like, this is just a team I don't even know how to judge because, like, we've seen them score over 100 points. I mean, last week even they took down Jabba the Hutt 1, Hutt 2, who was the highest scoring team in the league.
Yeah.
But we've also seen them lose to teams who scored like 70 points because he only scored 50. So I don't even know how to, I guess, Pretender, because with boom or bust people, it's just you can't always rely on the boom.
He better start cross-examining this team or whatever he does now as a lawyer.
He's a clerk.
Okay.
But not in a bank.
Do your clerk things, Esquire, right?
I think that's how it works.
Or we'll just go with ESQ, because that sounds Q.
And you have a questionable DeMarco Murray right now.
And a questionable lineup. So you're not as bad as you were last year when we got to Contenders, Pretenders, but I hate your team right now.
But I would say the one bright spot of this team is you've made some pretty great videos this year.
Yep. And we enjoy them, so keep doing them if you wish. And if you have more alcohol prior to doing your videos, it seems to make them incredible. Maybe you should drink more alcohol when setting your lineups. Maybe you did, and that's how you got 100 points.
Oh, man.
All right, Priscilla's Killas. Not killing it this year, but 3-3.
I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
They have
point this out. You got to point this out.
They have scored 395 points this year. Okay? Now, reminder, the highest point total in the league is 636. So my math says you're about 200 some points less than Dennis.
That's right, folks. It's
not showing up. That is a blank screen. Just like Priscilla's team.
This number says if you take 395 divided by 6, you get 65.833333 repeating. That's right. This team has 3 wins and is averaging less than 66 points per week. How does that happen, Mike?
And, like I said, 240 points less than the highest point total.
Incredible.
That's like she didn't set a lineup for 2 weeks.
And since she's playing me this week, she's going to have
breakout season.
She's probably going to score 20 points and win.
So, last week, for example, she scored 49 points. Hence why you and I could have beaten her without our quarterbacks.
That's right.
So she does have Derek Carr, who seemed like a great draft pick, and he has not been holding up to the hype from last season.
Ooh.
Maybe he'll find his receivers again and give them more sticky gloves because his receivers have been dropping a lot of balls lately.
Andre Cooper is
Amari Cooper? Andre Cooper doesn't even exist. Just like Amari Cooper's hands apparently don't exist right now.
What I was trying to say is Amari Cooper.
Yes.
But I screwed up the first part of the joke.
It's okay, Tom. It's all right.
Maybe next time. We'll try next time.
Now, Priscilla's number 1 overall pick, or not first, I always say that, her first round draft pick, Devontae Freeman, still looks like a great draft pick. 8th overall running back in the league, and by far her best point scorer. Mm-hmm. But after that, Demaryius Thomas has not been doing amazing because Trevor Siemian is not doing as well as I expected. She does have Dez Bryant, who's been okay. Tyrod Taylor, who's, hanging around as sometimes good, sometimes bad. But it's just kind of a lineup of a bunch of who? What? Maybe they'll score some points.
Who's Robbie Anderson? Who is that guy?
I don't know, but he's questionable.
43rd ranked wide receiver, and she's got him in the starting lineup.
Yeah, so we're going to go pretender because I don't really know how you have 3 wins. But
what's she being outscored by right now? So she's being outscored by about 70 points.
Which isn't that bad.
And somehow has 3 wins. That's just a pace that will not keep up.
Will not. Prior to last week, she had a winning record. 3-2.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's a common theme right now that we're kind of negative on the female teams. So,
but wait,
female team number 3. Is there hope?
There's more. There is the Mother of Dragons, who not scoring much better than Priscilla and actually less than Kate at 415, but is playing great defense as she only has 436 points scored against her, which is good for
second
lowest in the league behind
her brother.
So something about the sparing children,
sparing siblings.
We don't want to
put
all sparings in that because there's one sparing
are spooky
that is having a ton of points scored against them, and we'll get back to that later.
It's not a sibling.
I know. So that's fine.
Sorry. I was really not paying attention.
He's killing me, guys.
I thought we were going to make a long video again.
Oh, and you got to get through 12 teams. It's hard not to. So this team has Matt Ryan, Lynch, C.J. Anderson, Brandon Cooks, Eric Decker, her man crush, Jared Cook, Ted Ginn Jr., Ravens defense, which has been actually doing surprisingly well.
Can I just stop you for a minute? Did you see Matt Ryan's quarterback ranking?
I actually did not.
Do you want to guess?
I'm struggling. I'll go with 11.
24.
Ooh, wow.
Matt Ryan is the 24th ranked quarterback in the league.
In his defense, I think he already had his bye week, so that does play in a little bit. But
he's averaging 12.8 points a game.
That's not very good.
That is bad.
That is...
I know it was that bad.
That's tough, because I think she drafted him Well, I guess it was only like the 4th round.
I mean, he could turn it around. I think this team, if Matt Ryan turns it around, she'll turn it around.
I think this team has the right amount of potential.
Turn it around. Turn the beat around. Give me more Eric Decker.
Woo!
Brandon Cooks is good.
And don't forget CJ Anderson.
I like Ryan, suck up. I like Ryan, suck up.
Ravens defense number 3.
All right. Sorry for that. We just got carried away there. The music.
Yeah. But it was beautiful. Yeah. She's got a solid defense, which helps. And I think players that are capable of having better seasons as they go on. Eric Decker is, I think, pretty much getting better every single week he plays.
Kind of feeling like you're being a homer here, and I'm feeling a contender vote coming on.
And Brandon Cooks is great, and Matt Ryan is going to get better, and I love my wife, so I'm going contender, because she is going to break a record if she makes it to the playoffs. And that record would be most consecutive playoff appearances. She currently holds it tied with Billy and Peter, but she is the only one with the active streak.
How many? 3?
4 in a row.
4. My God.
That's right.
Well, Tom is hopeful, and to be honest, you are 3-3, so you're still in the thick of things, but your point total scares me. So I'm going to go pretender. Don't shoot the messenger. Your point total said that, not me. But she always has low point totals, like a consistent, like every time we do this, I'm always like, but Tom, low point totals. And you're like, but it's my wife, contender. And then she gets contender, and I'm like.
One year I think she made the playoffs. I was looking at it, and she was averaging like 73 points a game. So it's not all about the points scored.
She's done it before.
It's about the intimidation factor, because teams are just scared to score against her, because they know Kristen's competitive, and she brings just this angry fury.
And when Kristen's mad, don't mess with her.
Watch out.
Because she does turn into a dragon. All right. I don't know if she's ever been mad at me. I'm just using hyperbole. Speaking of hyperbole, I have to sit next to Dad every week watching fantasy football or watching football with him. And I hear about how bad his team is and how frustrating it is because teams are scoring 300 points against him every week. Well, in actuality, they aren't scoring 300 points against him. It's only 625 points over 6 weeks, which is probably an average of like 103.
104.16.
That would make sense because it's 25 and not. Yeah. Anyway. My math was close, but not perfect. So he's 1-5. He got his first victory over the other grandfather of the league, who remains winless. Stock Up did put up a healthy 132. Now, what I do like about this team is he has Carson Wentz, who is doing phenomenal. And
number 4.
I just had to wear all my Eagles gear because, hey, they're 5-1. I don't know if they're contenders or pretenders, but I am enjoying the ride so far. So we'll see what happens with that. Back to Dad's team. If he hadn't benched Melvin Gordon, which we will keep reminding people of, he would at least be 2-4 and in the thick of things. He has some ground to make up, but between Wentz and Gordon, he can do it. Austin Seferian-Jenkins has started to get a lot of catches and touchdowns for the Jets, and he had a mysterious touchdown taken back last week.
We should have 8 more points in his stat line because his touchdown, 6 points, turned into a fumble, -2 points, which no one seems to be able to explain except for the referees in the NFL who still believe, even after the fact, that it really was a fumble.
They forgot to take their Halloween masks off last week when reviewing that play, so they were blinded by that. Anyway, so Dad has Chris Thompson, who's been quite the steal. He's been doing quite well for him. 15 points last week, averaging 15 points a week.
Oh.
And that's solid.
That's really good.
Larry Fitzgerald had some rough weeks, but he's back up to number 4 ranked wide receiver. You know, this team isn't too bad.
The ageless wonder. Just like Dad.
I know we like to have our favorite 1-5 team every year go from what looks like the cellar dweller to the championship stud. And it's kind of looking like this team. I'm going to go contender.
I will also go contender.
Whoa.
Because Dad's not really losing right now because his team is bad. I mean, he had a few bad weeks, no doubt. But he's been scored 104 points on average against him. And, I mean, eventually that has to kind of ease down. I don't think he can go on forever. And he's got a team that's putting up points. He's got good players. So I'm not sure he can get to the championship again like he did that one year. But I think he can sneak into the playoffs above teams like myself who are at 4-2 and will continue to lose while he probably starts building win streaks.
The point scoring can go on forever because it went on forever against me last year. The last team in the league.
We didn't want to go one video without Mike bringing up how he had that season where a lot of people scored points against him.
Do not forget, this league is all about me, not about you.
It's not even the record. It's not even the record.
Nope. It's about the points. Speaking of record and
points.
0-6.
Cimarron Steelers.
So it's going to be hard, Dave. It's going to be hard. Because 6-7 is the lowest record we've ever had make the playoffs, I think.
6-7 is the lowest, to my knowledge. And that's going to require a 7-game winning streak.
Well, to get to 6 games, he would need to win 6 out of 7.
No, sorry. I don't know.
You were thinking that 7-6 is maybe guaranteed to make the playoffs.
To be safe, you should have a 7-game win streak.
Which means he needs to win every game from here on out.
Precisely. So I'm just going to call him a pretender from the fact that the odds are stacked against him. I actually think his team is starting to play a lot better.
I know. It's not like a terrible lineup.
He is suffering a similar fate as Stock Up, where teams are just scoring tons and tons of points against him. He's only got a few points below Stock Up's points against total. And it didn't help that Stock Up, the other bottom team in the league, decided to have one of the highest scoring weeks you've seen this year with 132 points. So, I mean, the Cimarron Steelers have had some really bad weeks. We've seen them in the 40s, I think, one or two times.
2 weeks ago it was 40s. The week before he did have 99 and you put up 118. So when he scores high, the other team scores higher. So, 127 to 91, but then weeks 1 and 2, I think he was fairly low, 68 and 47.
So pretender, not because your team is bad, they're actually playing a lot better of late. Just the odds are not ever in your favor.
Nope, they're not. But there's always next season, and maybe you can build some momentum. Like the bad teams in the NFL build momentum at the end of the year. They feel confident. And they go into the next season, and they just start killing it.
We do have to warn you, tanking does not work in this league because the draft is randomized next year. You don't get to be number 1. Just wanted to, in case you were thinking of tanking, which I still say the jury was out on. He was trying to tank the first few games of the season. Maybe it just got away from him. He was like, oh, no, now I can't win. Because 2 weeks with 40 points, that's not Dave Sparing like. I think he was trying to throw some games to get better waiver picks, and it backfired.
The evidence is there.
Conspiracy.
All right. So with that, wow.
That was unintentional.
Tom is throwing it down. So he is ready to rumble for this week. So this will be a critical week for a lot of teams because we have quite a stack up of teams right now with, like we said, with the 3-3 team. So we have a couple facing off. We have a couple teams where they're looking to just turn the season around. So this is where the cream of the crop separates themselves from the crap of the crop.
Now, in another fun fact that I just counted up real quick, what could happen if the cards fall perfectly right? We could see even more madness in that there could be 8 teams sitting at 4-3. What it would require is Polymer Paladins winning, Priscilla's Killis to beat me. Either Kristen or Peter can win their game, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
Bobby beats Dennis, which would add 2 to the mix. Billy wins, which add another 1 to the mix.
And the Cookie Monster.
Cookie Monster. Well, I think
Wow.
got to 7 there, but I think it does come out to 8 if I did it right. So we could see 8 teams at 4-3 as a result. Now that requires a lot of craziness to happen, but this league is full of it.
It's like the theoretical, what do you need to do to make the playoffs once the NFL season winds down. So with that, enjoy the madness. It's going to be another fun week. I'm going down to Virginia Tech to watch the Hokies on Saturday, so it's going to be a fun weekend for me, and I hope it's an equally fun weekend for you.
I'll be partying at the wedding.
Party hard. Congratulations again, Michael Sparing. You can have a fun wedding weekend, but I will ruin that with a victory.
Nice.
Okay. With that,
we will see you all later.
Bye.